Hey, what's going on, MGTOW Community? This is Vladimir Sauce, aka the Hot Pepper Pill. I wanted to share with you guys a pretty disturbing and disgusting story I just heard, which pokes a hole in the narrative that women are the gentler sex, that they are the kinder, nicer, more motherly, more affection. Bleeding heart is held open for children, grandchildren, and the like. A particular vicious bitch by the name of Geneva Robinson just received 3 consecutive life sentences for the abuse of her grandchildren. 51-year-old grandmother was abusing the shit out of her 7-year-old granddaughter, including things such as tying her with the belt to the attic roof and hitting her with whips and chains, burning her with lit cigarettes, creating a persona called Nelda the Witch, to where she would dress with a mask, green paint on her hands, a witch's hat, and tell her granddaughter that monsters lived in the attic and they were coming to get her, and that she was going to get eaten for dinner, and would make her go outside and sleep in the doghouse with the dogs, and kept her from eating food to the point where she was starving and had to steal food to survive, and just some generally disgusting things. And her boyfriend, age 33, was charged with 30 years in jail as an accomplice to this abuse. And what's particularly disgusting about the case is, of course, these attorneys, these rat bastards who, have taken the bar just to try and get people out of heinous acts of violence and disgusting crimes. Her attorney was claiming that since no loss of life had occurred, these 3-year consecutive life sentences was just barbaric. I think the complete opposite. These people in these extenuating circumstances where abuse is prevalent to a minor, to a child, where the judge presiding over this case said that the main reason these 3 life sentences were given to you is because the sparkle of this little girl had been taken away. There was evidence, photos of her at age 5 years old with a smile on her face, looking like a generally happy, healthy little girl. 2 years later, after the abuse had set in, the photos contained a completely different girl, looking broken, looking shattered. Upon medical examination, some of her lacerations, bruises on her legs had become infected. She was just treated in a house of hell for years, and her mental state had begun to suffer. Also, during the trial, she had made the statement about her grandma that it wasn't her grandma's fault, that she's the best grandmother in the world and she loves her to death and doesn't want her to go away. But that's this abuse, these cluster B type personality disorders. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, can't make a viable claim to her diagnosis, but obviously this woman had some sort of antisocial, borderline personality shit going on to create such a intricate web of lies in this character of a witch personality to keep her grandchildren afraid and, tied down under her power. It's really just disgusting. I think as an alternative, they should take cases like this where there's video evidence proven that this person did the crime. They need to put him in the middle of the courtroom and shoot him in the fucking head right in front of all the jurors and judges, and like a Sweeney Todd style trap door can open where their body and blood and shit will just drop down into the sewer and the garbage where they fucking belong, where the rats can feast on them. I mean, I have no sympathy for cases like this, and it just illustrates the point that women can abuse too, and they are so much more psychologically manipulative about it in terms of creating this witch character, this idea to get inside this girl's mind and not only scare her with threats of violence, but to actually use violence, hitting her with this whip while she was chained to the ceiling. There was something seriously wrong with this grandmother, with Geneva Robinson and her boyfriend, who just sat idly by and let this happen. One of my main questions is, actually I have 2 questions. Who the fuck gave this grandmother the right to have this child? If you review the article, I'm going to put several links in the description of this story, which several articles shed a different light and a little bit different story. Some mentioned the fact that the granddaughter was almost exhibiting this Stockholm Syndrome-like case where she was showing, an apologetic reaction to her grandmother being sent to trial and, still showing her love and affection when she doesn't deserve any, should be fed to dogs. But, how the fuck did she end up with this child, with these grandchildren? According to the one document I read, the granddaughter's parents separated in a divorce, and her father could not keep her, so she ended up being sent away with this disgusting grandmother. How does this stuff happen? In another one of the articles, you'll read that the grandmother's daughter, the victim, her mother and father or whatever, were saying that they were tortured as young kids with the same Nelda the Witch story and very similar upbringing to the violence, to these other things. And this should have been a red flag to the parents a long time ago, and it's just further illustrates that this single mother dichotomy ruins lives. This girl is for the rest of her life going to be dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. Could probably not enjoy Halloween to people dressed up as a witch. It'll bring back all these thoughts of negativity. I mean, I foresee multiple suicide attempts. I'm not trying to wish for this to this girl, but it's this grandmother has ruined this young, impressionable child's life. And this happens every day in silence on every street corner in America and in Europe, in Asia, and other countries where the man goes off to work and the woman beats the shit out of the kid. And it's, if you tell your father what happened, who knows? But it happens every day, I guarantee you, more than we think. And I almost would bet that women are the primary initiators of this, thinking that, in terms of young boys, their little son he's a young man, he can handle it, he can toughen up, he can deal with whatever language I throw at him, whatever violence I throw at him, whatever hands I may put on him to make him stop doing an action or make him do an action. He should be able to handle it because he's a man, and we'll hold the more reserved stuff in particular for girls. But not in this case. This woman was an evil bitch, and it just disgusts me. It makes me shake my head. But going back to my second question, I mentioned I had two questions. First of all, how does she end up with this child when there had been a history of abuse with her own original children, not the grandchildren? But again, on every other street corner in America, there's a father that sees their kid maybe once a month, one weekend a month, trying his hardest to put food on the table. When he sees them, is reading them to bed, is helping them with homework, is calling their bitch of an ex-wife to ask how their kids are doing, to a phone hung up on them on the ear, just a bitch. And they're trying their hardest to be a father, and they've had every opportunity taken away by the woman. And, meanwhile, this woman, who is clearly unfit to be a parent, is given full rights responsibility of these grandchildren. You just have to read the article. It's really disgusting, and sorry to bring up a dark and heavy topic here, but it needs to be illustrated that boys and girls suffer in silence throughout every city in America and throughout the world. And in these cases, it just needs to be a precedent set that it is not acceptable to do this to people where you were put in a position to trust and to guard and to direct, to become a positive member of society, to make money, to contribute, and to not live a life in fear and in suicide of something that you instilled and that you caused. You should be the one to pay for this action and should be removed from the gene pool. I'm not one for the death penalty, but it's in these cases, there's video evidence of this woman. You can watch the videos on the links that I'll provide for the article, or just Google the witch. Just Google Nelda the Witch, and all these fun articles are going to come up about exactly what a heinous bitch Mrs. Robinson is. I hope she rots in fucking hell, and I hope she gets raped with a big strap-on in prison and is fed the worst quality food and just starves to death and just dies in a miserable way for what she did to these kids. So thank you guys for listening. Sorry to take you down to a nice, wholesome story there, but it has to be made aware of. Men, boys, kids, children, girls suffer in silence, and not being it's up to MGTOW to do something, but it's just, our court system is to blame. Letting people be entrusted with children when they are clearly not fit, and fuck the father, let him just rot in silence, misery, eventual suicide, as the mom runs off with all the cash and prizes and spins an intricate web of lies into the child's head, fucking them up with their narcissism, with their cluster B personality disorders, and rubbing them off on the kids so that they're causing the same problem to their kids decades down the line, and another family has fallen into the abyss of, neglect, of maybe opioid abuse, of drug problems, of suicide, of depression, of, the many problems you can have of falling off in our society that's so fast-paced and not giving a fuck about you. So, thank you guys for listening. I'd like to hear what your comments are about this woman. I think she should be shot in the fucking head in town square, sets a precedent, that a lot of these child abuse cases will dry up if you know you're gonna get fucking hung for clear-cut evidence of your abuse. So, that's all I got to say about that. I know it's probably more of a complicated issue than that, but hey, I'm no science major or political scientist or whatever. We're all trying to work with what we can and come up with ideas. Thank you guys for listening. Please hit that like. Please hit that comment. Please hit subscribe. Please like and comment. Subscribe for all other MGTOW content. Guys are trying to share the truth with you to help you awaken to a new level of understanding, self-actualization, to not give a fuck what another person thinks of you. You're your own man. And we're only given one trip around this merry-go-round, so you might as well have as much fun with it as possible. This is Vladimir Sauce. Have a great day.